and welcome to our fourth episode in our Back to Basics video series. Today we're joined by Paul Fouché, New Road Capital's Chief Investment Officer, and he's going to be taking us through alpha and beta. Thanks for joining us today, Paul.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
So Paul, to get us started, what exactly is alpha?
So Jess, essentially what a portfolio's alpha is it's risk adjusted, and that's the crucial point here, is that it's the risk adjusted outperformance to its benchmark. So for example, if a fund did 1% better than its benchmark over a year, provided that its volatility was the same or its beta was the same, its systemic risk was the same, then it would have a 1% alpha attributed to that portfolio.
All right, and then what exactly is beta?
So beta is quite important. Beta is essentially the relative systemic risk that a portfolio takes on relative to its benchmark. So if we use equity as the example, so if you take the all share as, let's say, an equity benchmark, and you ascribe a beta of 1 to that benchmark, then you have a portfolio out there that has let's say a beta of 1.2. That means essentially that for every 1% movement up or down that the benchmark takes, on average the fund will do a 1.2% movement either way. So a beta of more than 1 means that the portfolio takes on more systemic or more market risk, and a beta of less than 1 would mean that the portfolio would take on less risk relative to its benchmark.
All right, and then if, for example, Fund A outperforms its benchmark, would that mean that fund has a higher alpha?
Well, not necessarily. So if Fund A had an excess return relative to its benchmark. So excess return is let's say an outperformance. So Fund A does 20% and the benchmark does 19%. That would be excess return. But if you want to calculate true alpha, you have to incorporate the portfolio's beta. So if that fund, for example, that did the 20% relative to its benchmark of 19%, had a beta of, let's say, 1.5 times the market, it actually wouldn't have provided any alpha, because that extra 1% that it took was not worth the extra the extra systemic risk that it took into the portfolio. So you'll see a lot of fund managers will talk about alpha as excess return, and they're not actually the same thing. So when you're looking at true alpha, you actually have to look at the portfolio's beta relative to its benchmark to see if that excess return that it did get was worth the excess risk that it took on.
All right, well, thank you for that. And thank you for tuning in, and please be sure to watch next week.
Thank you.